went gray. I'm back to, let the truth be told. I feel on fire with my passion flow. I'm back to, let the truth be told. I feel on fire with my passion flow. I'm back from a glory, yeah. These guys talk big, but I'm more prepared. On my redemption road, I rip my foes when I trip and flip modes. You can't slip my blows. I'm on a comeback. You took out all the enhancements. In with the glow, I'm the champ that the fans did. Hard, rugged, star-studded and mighty, and leaving you all bloody and making your face ugly. Jab, hook, uppercut, for my blow and it impacts up your gut. You wanna try to beat the champ, you ain't tough enough. I think you move, do your best, and I counter punch. Man, I fake for precision, aim, hit me with your brain. Cause I train with the wisdom, gain vision through the pain. I will bang through the system, stay vicious in the game. And I'm back forever, you can't stop my reign. Back to, let the truth be told. I feel on fire with my passion flow. I'm back to, let the truth be told. I feel on fire with my passion flow. Put 'em up, show me what you got. I wanna see how you rock, if you great or not. Wanna take my spot, let the train the box. With the game on lock and my ring won't stop. I'm back to, let the truth be told. I feel on fire with my passion flow. Stop it, it's getting just up over my block. I'm locked in the glitch, I'm out to go off. I was off, but now back to the champion bars. Go rock, ready, no, stop it, it's getting just up over my block. I'm locked in the glitch, I'm out to go off. I was off, but now back to the champion bars. When I break through, I shake fools with great moves. The train to stay loose, my power stays loose. Give me if you want my cheerness, I ain't great. Keep throwing your best out, but I'm still left standing. I rock steady, my heart's heavy with fire. Call me the trailblazer, I'm taking this game higher. I move fast, so speed back. Throwing right crosses so you weak jabs. It feels good without the implants in me. Gonna show the world that my skills wanna skin deep. I'm charging the wind speed, moving in the frenzy. Show 'em the champ, leave 'em something to envy. I say defiant in the sweet science. Ready to rumble in the jungle on these big lions. Yeah, I'm a legend, a street giant. If it's the last 3 rounds, gets me food, keep trying. Back to, let the truth be told. I feel on fire.
Hi everybody, this is Yo Asakura live on YouTube for the first time. So I'm gonna try my best to make sure that I don't flub this up. I am trying to start up a web series in which I can go live so that we can talk about art, animation, illustration, manga composition, comic book composition, anything that you possibly could think of dealing with art, dealing with illustration, dealing with concept creation and design. I want to start covering a series of videos in which I feel that I can start helping out people that want to be involved with more of the arts as a profession, to have a couple of guidelines that will be essential in trying to make sure that you're ready for such a field when the time comes. Now, a lot of people are daunted by who they take advice from, because usually when they see people as artists, they tend to think that art is a physical ability in which you have to possess a physical amount of, I guess, accumulative skill in order to be as good as you want to be considered to other artists. With that being said, a lot of the times when you see someone that's considered better than you in your own opinion, people tend to shy away from trying harder because they believe that they should be on the same level that the person that they're looking at is at, because time is how they measure their skills. They figure that since they're not good enough in this space of time, that it's all worthless. It's no point in it. So I wanted to try to come up with ways to help people get along faster with their artwork and try to help them to understand ways of, when you look at a person's finished work, there are building blocks to that piece. And many people just see the final work and assume that, okay, this is how it's supposed to be created, not knowing that there are steps underlying that built up to the final product. A lot of times artists believe that one line is how it's all solved, and that's not how it goes at all. One time I was talking to an artist and they were trying to ask me, how is it that a person is able to draw a circle so perfectly? And I was like, a lot of the times people have to do that for years and years in order to be able to do that. But for the meantime, many people sketch circles out, because when you sketch things, it gives you a draft idea as to how large or small an object is going to be, one, and it helps you to look for where you want to place your perfect line when you make your final draft. So for the first bit, to get I guess started and everything, I just want to give a little bit about who I am and why I feel that I am qualified to be able to try and help others with their art profession. My name is Greg Nelson, but I go by the artist pen name Yo Asakura, because YOH, Yo, is an acronym for Your Ordinary Hero. And the reason why I like that name is because I grew up watching Shaman King, Mega Man, grew up watching all your classic cartoons back in the day. When I became a teenager, I started getting heavily invested in Dragon Ball Z, anime, manga, and everything like that. Then Naruto came out, anime, manga, and everything. So I've studied a lot of manga in general, because a lot of people watch anime and they're fascinated with that, but a lot of people skip over the manga concept. And in this first video, that's what I want to do. A lot of people will think that they could cheat the shortcut and say, okay, I don't have to create a manga because the guy that did One Punch Man, right? He didn't necessarily have to make a manga. He didn't know how to draw that well. All he had to do was just find a really good artist, and then the artist would do all the work for him, right? So a lot of people tend to think that they can skip the first step, is being able to attract an audience on paper. For example, when you watch the Harry Potter movies, you're filled with a sense of wonder. You're filled with a sense of, wow, how is a person so creative that can make something like this? However, if you didn't read the book, you might sit next to a person that did read the book, and they may be disappointed with the movie. Why? Because this person was so good at putting the imaginative aspect on paper that the person that was doing the film was not able to match that energy. So therefore, you may run into a situation where, if you're trying to do what One Punch Man did, you might run into a situation where a person that's doing your animation might not be up to par. Or they may look at your things and not be able to visualize what you're trying to do. The reason why is because One Punch Man started off knowing the basics of how to make a manga page. So I'm going to go over into an example with which I can go ahead and start drafting out how manga pages are constructed, and little tactics in which you can come up with ways to make your story more fluid and have it so that you can captivate audiences with how the layout is set up and how everything is put together in the actual page. Give me a second. One second, I gotta focus. Sorry, this is my first time, so I gotta learn how to pull this here over to my. I wonder if they can still hear me. Well, give me a second. I just don't know if people can still hear me or not. An example which I can go ahead and start drafting out how manga pages are constructed. Are you serious? Little tactics in which you can come out the layout. That means that they can't still. Alright, so forgive me guys, it's the first time I've been on live. So I hope you can still hear me. So if that's the case, then okay, I'm gonna just go ahead and continue. So now what I have on the screen is a picture that I did for a friend that his birthday is today. And give a shout out to Percival or Omerta. I hope I didn't say that wrong. This is his character Og from a series that he's creating. Forgive me, I don't know the name off the top of my head, but he's read a couple of pages of our series and he's actually responded to us in the form of voice chat. So I thought it was pretty cool. His character concept and everything like that was something that struck out to me. The reason why I like his character as well, if I could actually pull it up real quick. He has a character that's, of course, of African American descent, but that's not what I want to focus on. What I want to say is that what I really like about this character is that he doesn't try to go with a staple, superhero stereotype, if you will. He goes with how he feels he looks, and I appreciate that, because a lot of the times some people don't know how to make themselves look how they want on paper, and it's even harder to try and make a character that is of a different body type than yours, but still has characteristics that you want to show in that person's personalities. And that's what I feel is a challenge in which I was drawing this character. Sometimes when you're trying to portray an image a certain way or a character a certain way, you kind of run flat because you run out of ideas of how to portray the character. Here, this is what I want to put here. This is the image that he did. And so this character here is the one that I drew. His name is Og. And that's my interpretation of him, if you will. So I just wanted to give a shout out to him. Today's his birthday. Happy birthday to him and everything like that. Okay. So alright, now let's go ahead and start off with a new image here, new page here, because I want to go ahead and give a good layout as to how manga pages are constructed. I'm not able to see the comments at this time because I still have to figure out how to set it up so that it runs in tandem with my program. So if you have any questions, anything like that, please leave the comments and I'll try my best to respond to them. But for now, I'm just going to go ahead and set this up for people that possibly could be listening after this is done live. So I'm just going to set the page up, image size, and I want to have this 8.5 by 11, so 8.5. And this is These are going to be rules that you can do on paper as well. I'm just doing this traditionally because on digitally because it's easier to show you how to do it on computer, whereas on paper I'll use my camera on later dates to show you how I do things traditionally. But for now, let's just continue this way. So hold on, give me a second. 8.5. All right. Now the first thing a lot of people get wrong is that when you're trying to do a manga page, you're not supposed to start off with drawing the characters. That's not how this is supposed to work. When you start drawing the characters, a problem that you can run into is that you'll make one scene so cool, but then it doesn't flow with how you want your work to go. So therefore, you have to find a way to remove it. So that's why you don't start off with characters, drawing them on the pictures or whatever not. You have to first line out where your boxes are going to go and accordingly how they're supposed to go. One thing that I noticed that all artists fail is how to properly set up your manga column page, your manga columns. For example, how much space belongs between, let's see, I'm just going to do this like this roughly. If I have a panel that looks like this, right? Many times people don't understand that when you're going this way, okay, when you're doing things like trying to tell a story from right to left or left to right, depending on how you're trying to do it, you're wanting the reader to be able to go across this way with speed and efficiency without losing track of where they're going. So that's why you're going to make the lineup between these two columns slimmer. Okay? I'm telling you this to keep that in your mind for later for what my next example will be. Okay? Alright. Now once you have that down, okay? When you're trying to go down, however, let me write that down. When you're trying to go down, however, it needs to be wider. This way, your reader's eyes aren't accidentally going from here to down there. You want it to go from here to over there. Okay? So, when you do your line up here now, it has to be a wider edge. So that now, when you look at the page as a whole, you start to see that your boxes look a little bit more aligned and professional. And that's what you want to go for, because when you don't have it that way, you can actually start to confuse your readers and they won't know where you're trying to take the story, and that can make a lot of people just want to put the book down. Okay, so let me go ahead and just finish these out real fast. And these will just be some practice panels for now. And like again, I'm just going like notes because this is not going to be what's called your final draft. Alright? But for the most part, this is just how your basic page should look. You should see that, and even so I kind of messed up here because this is supposed to be slimmer than that. Give me a second. And that's what this is good for. It's just good for getting this out first, making sure you have all of this lined up. Because what you want to be able to do first is envision how the page will look in your mind and what you want your characters to be doing. Okay, let me go ahead and make that so that people can see that a little bit better. Okay. Alright. So now that's just the basic construct of how you want to make sure that your design of your page is going well. Now there are different types of pages. For example, let me go ahead and just put that like that. Sometimes you want to have a scene that flows in a little bit better. So you'll have something like this. Okay? And I know this is like very messy for now, but just bear with me. You'll see what I mean in a minute. Okay? Now this could be an action scene. Not an action scene necessarily, but it could be an introduction to a piece of information that your characters just got. And now everybody's responding to, oh my god, in a way. And now you can draft out but the rule of thumb still applies. See, you want to make sure that these lines here are thinner. Okay? Of course, you can come through with a ruler and make it straight later on. But this is how I draft out my first beginning of pages. The reason why this is cool is because if I then take and copy this and then do it the other way, this could be a part of a 2-page spread. So then one page looks like that, and the other page looks like this. Okay? And then in here, you just do your little notes. Who's standing where? Right? And that's what I'm going to get into next. How is it that you make it flow the way you want it to flow? And that's what we're going to do in a moment. But first, let's go back to the initial panel set that I created here. I'm going to erase these. So now that you remember this, if you're going across, the lines are slim. If you're going down, the lines are wider. Okay. So now, how do people draw so fast all the time and get all these pages done and everything like that? Well, the first thing is that you have to know how many pages a week is the goal for a constant storytelling of a story. And then you have to know how many pages are demanded to see if you can meet or somewhat come up close to a goal of your own. That way you can try and keep a consistent basis, because that's what art is, consistency. Doesn't matter how good you draw, it's about how much you draw and how much sense you make as time passes to your audiences. So, the first thing you want to do is you want to look at a page as a whole, and then take and draft out the kind of notes that you want to envision. When it comes to fight scenes, I see that a lot of people try to do all of the panels on one page. The first thing that you want to do is you want to do what's called a Lemme. Okay? And that's basically a rough draft sketch of the way you want the page to flow. Okay? Usually when you try to make something happen, you're not thinking in terms of, okay, beginning, middle, and end. What you're doing is you're trying to think of something that's happening in the moment, and you're trying to transition from one scene to another. But that's bad, because sometimes you might know what you want to do, but it's not the first thing that has to happen. For example, if you wanted someone to do a quick kick flip, okay? I'm just gonna sketch it out real fast. The first thing you have to do is draft out where everything is going to be. Okay? And this is important. What's important here is to know the anatomy of the body in a way that you can sketch it in seconds. Why? Because if you have an idea of how someone should look, then you need to be able to get that down on paper as fast as you can. Now, usually Pink is the one that's fighting, so that's why I'm going to be going with her for this example. So I'm drafting out her body, and the way that we've drawn her, I'll pull up an image of her on the screen at one point so you can see the reference, is that we do the characters with basic lines so that when we draw them, we know where things are supposed to go when we do rough details. As you can see the ball, where that goes. And I'm going to do these later on in another live video on how I do character construction, okay? When you do something like a draft, what ends up happening is that you can start to envision how things are going to look in the final scene cut. So now that that's down there like that, you have a basic idea of where you want to lead to. So here, obviously, this is leading to where Pink is about to do something for the next page. So obviously here, you're going to have the person that she's going to be attacking. And let's just do him really fast. And the reason why I say this is because sometimes you don't want to draw from up here. You don't want to have to go from here to here and then do all of this just to get here and then get to this cool scene right here. Sometimes you don't want that. Sometimes you want to draw the cool scene now, but you just have to know where it's going to go on your page. So that's why you make your boxes first, and then you decide on where you want to put the cool image, if you will, and then build up to it. So now I'm going to have the person trying to get on guard that she's fighting against. No, I'm just going to have Arn, like it's a training thing, so I'll just have it where he has glasses. And again, this is just a rough draft, because eventually when you draw your characters over and over again, you're going to know where everything goes. You don't have to draw the eyes. Someone else can draw that for you, and I'll get to that in a minute. What I'm doing right now is what people need to learn how to do in their spare time by themselves. When Akira Toriyama is by himself, he's doing a lot of these, so that when he does get around his people, they can all be told the story of what he wants, and they can help him with it. So now Arn is there, okay, and his hand is here, okay. So now you want this scene here. Usually boxes like this, landscape shots, where it's wide and it shows the full background and it shows the characters, the horizon, you name it. So I'm just make a new layer here and just draw a quick horizon, right? That's my horizon. These are the grounds leading up to it. So that gives you a basic summary of what's going to be positioned where. And as you can see, that gives you an aspect of how things are going to look. Sometimes you might want to change the way the horizon looks. I don't like the way it looks that way, so go ahead and flip it, see if it looks better this way, because that's important too. The way your page flows, you might have to have it so that because Pink's facing this way already, consistency is key. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and sketch into here. What I like to do is I start off with a circle, okay? I draw the shoulders like a hanger set, and I draw around like this. That's what you want to try and do when you're trying to draw a character over and over and over again, and you need to know where they're facing and what direction they're going to be looking, okay? Let's draw the arms. Another thing, real quick. When drawing stick figures, I noticed that people tend to draw their stick figures with straight lines, okay? But if you were to draw a stick figure with every single line curved, it has more of a personality. The reason why I'm telling you this is because when you're trying to draw out your draft scenes and you're trying to make a representation of a person and you want them to be looking a certain way, when you're drawing out body ligaments, sometimes it's best to draw them with curves if you don't know how to do the position that you want them in. And these will give you better ideas as to what you want to execute in the final draft. So for example, now I have Pink right here. Okay? And again, these are just like notes. Remember, you used to take notes in school. This is what that is similar to. Now Arn, of course, will be in the foreground here. So I'm going to, just for the sake of inconvenience, make that layer invisible and then draw out Arn this way. And then, now I got his hood right here. When you're drawing your character over and over, try to learn how to draw your character in the sketch form so that when you sketch him, people know who it is and it still looks good. Once you do that good enough, then that means that all you have to do is just draw upwards from there. I want him facing this way, so I have his glasses, his ear, and then his hair sprouting out. Of course, I just make a representation of how his hair is going to be. Make sure that I line it up accordingly afterwards. With that. Now, if I don't want to draw his whole arm, but I want a fist, I can make a fist representation like that. And usually when you draw a fist, sometimes people have hard times drawing hands. Try to do it this way. Draw a circle and draw a small little triangle for the thumb. I don't know if you caught that, but that's a really good technique to learn how to draft hands. Come back around. Remember, keep your curved limbs. You're starting to see the formation of how his arm will be folded at the elbow here, and then he'll have a fist with his thumb right here. Keep going. Circle, and then draw a triangle piece as to where the thumb will possibly be. Okay? Now, of course, Pink is probably powering up in this scene, so I want to make sure that his jacket is floating around a bit. Make sure I represent that by this here, showing where his body is in relation to his jacket flailing up. Okay? And then just keep continuing to draw out how you want his pose to be. Legs coming forward this way. Usually when you have a character with pants, it's easier to embellish where the leg will be coming outside of the pant. And then I'm going to put my scene back in. Alright, and of course you can fix things up as you need to go to make sure that people can understand what things are, but for the most part you're just trying to make sure that people understand what's going on in the scene. Okay? Take these out of here. After that, go back up here and you may want to draw a face of the first person in the dispute. Obviously the dispute, really. And again, as you can see, I'm loosely drawing the frame of the body here. Once you get used to this, you start lowering your expectations of how you're supposed to draw and actually getting across what you're trying to present. That's what's key. Okay? Once you are able to do that, Pink. It's okay to go outside the lines, things of that sort. Alright. Now, the reason why I wanted to show this is because, like I said, usually people think that a manga page is constructed of straight lines that are perfect from the beginning. And that is false. You don't want to have that conception, because then you'll believe that you'll never be able to get as far as some of these artists have. But that's because they will always have assistants that come right behind them. Okay? And that's who comes in and fills up the lines. Right now I want to show you an example of some of our pages that we've done, where I've done the actual sketch names, and then Connie's come in with her final pieces. Give me 1 second, I'm gonna go ahead. Okay, and then after that, you know, of course, you would hand it off to someone. And one strategy that I found that really works, especially if you're a digital artist, you can take and turn the opacity layers down. I don't know if you can see that down here, but you're able to turn the opacity layers down so that it is a little bit less visible. Okay. So this way, when you do that, like at like maybe 30% or so, maybe no, like 10%, when you print that out on paper and give it to the main artist, that helps to give it to them as if, like, remember back in the day they used to do light boards, and they'll trace out every frame in that sense. Well, this is the same thing. Pretty much you make it lighter, print it out on a sheet of paper, and then give it to the artist, and they'll go over it with extreme detail. If I were to also do this as a digital artist, just give these frames to them, and then they'll put all of the notes, if you will, in a folder by itself. And then at this point, they can just go over it with the way that they draw the characters. Usually, this person is the person that's really adept at drawing the characters out in the style. Usually, the person that makes up the artwork is good at telling what the characters are doing and what they're going to be going against, how they're going to be moving through a scene, things of that sort. But when you do something along the lines of a joint effort, then certain people will have styles that are different than other people. Therefore, you're going to want to rely on whoever can draw this character the best should be the one drawing this character always. With that being said, if a person is really good at drawing backgrounds, you want that person to also have access to this so that they can start drawing the backgrounds while the other person is doing the details for the characters. This way, when you're finished with everything, all you have to do is just put everything together and make the final product. I'm gonna go ahead and try to see if I can pull up some examples of some works in action that we did. One second. There's a lot. Okay. Okay, it's this one. This might be a perfect example. Okay. So, okay. This is an example of one. I did this. Let me go ahead and darken it for people to be able to see it better. Alright, can you see that? I'm doing it this time so you can be able to see the actual framing. But this is a page that we did, and this is how I sketched out the initial design and flow of how I wanted things to go. Over time, as you can see, your sketches become more and more detailed to show you where you want things to resemble. For example, her shoulder pads here, and the way that her bra or the I guess the armor for the breasts is supposed to be displayed and everything like that. And then where Pink is standing with her markers. Of course, these are just notes. Okay, now let me go ahead and see if I can just pull up the finished result. Sorry, give me a second. Just trying to make sure I can completely contrast. What was it? 10? Yeah, it is 10. Oh, I found a lot better examples too. Ain't that something? Alright, I'll come back to those, but I still want to show this one just for the sake of. Here it is. Okay. Alright, so that's. Let's see how it looks. Let's see. This is the first one, and that's what it's the final result. Go ahead and zoom in a bit. Okay. Just gonna line them up side by side. So that you can see what is before and what's after. And there you go. So as you can see, the first image shows where everything was to be aligned, and the second image shows the final result afterwards. So when it comes to making the drafts for what you're trying to show, your artist doesn't have to worry about what the character will look like. The only thing they need to know is that this character is looking over here because you've shown that with the eyes. The mouth is slightly open because there will be dialogue. Okay, and this is the way that the body will be turned. Of course, there's an arm here. Okay, but I don't have the arm here, so of course that's what the artist's free of expression. Then over here, as you can see, Pink is standing like in a super badass pose. And this is what this is over here. But as you noticed, I drew the marker behind her, but then she found it really useful to come up with an idea to just show the marker in 3 different angles. So that makes it cool, because in this part, they're explaining the attributes of this character. Pink, medium, marker, color, red, medium shift, super magical girl. So the medium she uses is the marker, and that's why it's shown that way. And then down here, of course, if you don't have a generic reason to draw the background out, all you want to do is just show what the character is doing and where the character is going to be facing and looking. So this way, when over here, all you have to do now is just make sure that this character is here in the same pose, but just make sure that you are going to be placing your text in your wording, your boxes, not blocking the character. And of course, there's R in here at the last part, but of course, they drew their line workout and everything like that, and it's not necessarily going to always match, but the expression is basically portraying what you want to show, and then you put the dialogue in and everything of that sort. And some other examples, so I can pull them up really fast. This page was took a bit of planning, because I didn't exactly know how I was going to outline it. Not only that, this image here of the queen was an image that kind of just did on another sheet of paper. So what we ended up doing was, of course, taking the background and drawing out the soldiers in a way so that they could be there first, and then placing the image of the queen on top so that she's in the foreground. But we had someone do the background separately, as you can see. And when we placed the foreground characters on top of the background, we just edited it around everything so that it fits perfectly. Now, another thing I want to stress about manga rules are, when you're telling a story that took place in the past, or it's a backflash, do you see how the outline borders are black? Because what you want to show the audience is that this is not happening in present time. This is what's happening in the past. And this is the reason why they show black. Whenever you're trying to come out of the past moment back to the future moment, that's when it fades back to white near the bottom corner of wherever the next page turn will be. Okay? Let me see if I can find the preview to this one. I don't know. No, not this one, sorry. I'm going to Sorry, give me 1 second, guys. It's getting weird now. I promise I'm gonna have everything sorted out better for my following streams. Okay, here we go. Here's some. Let's open with. So this is another example. This was done on paper, and as you can see, if you can't see it, let me zoom in a little bit more. If you can see there, it shows where everybody will be, where everybody's going to be looking, how they're going to be outlined on the page, and where the panels will be. Okay? And of course, it's just roughly sketched. And it outlines where everybody will be, right? So now, when I hand it over to the inking person, let me see if I can find it the way that it looks while it's not all the way complete. I'm not sure. But alright, we're just gonna go ahead and open it this way. Hope this is it. Okay, bam. Now, this is where all of the finished product is, okay? But I want to break this down to show you how it became this way from the beginning with this actual image here. So I took away the line work layer of the panels, right? And this is to relate back to this image here. So you see how this looks here, and then the finished result here. And I'm going to go ahead and break it back down as to how it became this way. So I remove the line work layers. As you can see, everything is sectioned off. I have a white layer here to cut out the backgrounds and everything like that as well. Okay. This is where all my wording is. Okay. That's the black panel for the first layer. First panel, sorry. These are just fix them up lines that I may have missed on the panels for the last construction, because there's a part right here where the bubble goes inside of the panel. So I wanted to make sure that it didn't cut over the speech bubble. And then I have my speech here. And now I've broken this page back down to how it looks just before it's all finished up, but after the line work has been inked. I'll pull these up for an example here. And then over here is the result of what it looks like when it's inked. So you sketch it out first, how you want everything to go. And then you finalize it by getting your best person with the pen on the job to make sure that your lines are crisp and clean and correct. The reason why this is an advantage is because now the person that's doing the ink or the final penciling doesn't have to wonder how the characters are going to look. The person that's doing the drafting is already doing that work for them. All that person now has to do is to make sure that all of the images look good without having to create what the next scene is. Okay, and this is the way that you can focus all of your energies on producing the best job you can in the responsibility that you're left with. Let's see if I can take out some more. These are the shadings as well that I did digitally, so I have to remove those. And that's the white page in the background, so that's it. Okay, this was done on paper and scanned into the computer, but then I was able to remove the white lines from the black lines from the white page. But there, I'll do that in a later tutorial and show you how I do that. But then after that, what you want to make sure you do is you want to put your panels in the right spacing and make sure that all of the frames are showing correctly. Think about it. If you had no panels, there'll be no organization. But once you have your panels, it looks very pristine. And remember, the panels going sideways are slimmer. The panels going downwards, vertical, are wider. So now you know that it goes from here to here, down to here. Add the black scene here because this starts off with a statement there with nothing but blackness in there. And then I put my speech bubbles back. And then I put all of my statements back. So here, I made this text in white so that you can see it on the black background. But then you know definitely to go over here. Once you read that, you look at the character, you're going to transition to over here. The reason why I did this is because once I read this and I go here and I read what she says,
I'm going to look at her because I'm going to remember what she said and then envision what she said with the way she looks here. That's automatically going to lead me to here because I'm going to look at how this person is responding. From here, you know that you have to go this way. However, there's no real wording here yet because what you want to try and portray in this design is that after this person said this, they didn't really say anything. But then, now it automatically forces you to either read here or here. But this is more likely because the first thing you want to do is go from left to right. So it's supposed to be all happening kind of at the same time. This person will be speaking, and it'll lead from here to here, back up to here, and then over to this section here. Then, because of this major divide, you won't get confused with going from here to here to here with going from here to here to here. Because this thin line just automatically gravitates your eyes this way, as opposed to this way. Okay? And with that being said, you want to make sure that your audience, you want to look at over and over and over again to see where do you think your audience's eyes are going to go once they're finished with this. As you're reading the page, you may have to put a lot of things on the page. So you have to make sure that you're going to be lining that out in step 1. And that's when you're trying to do what's called your Lemme. You make sure you iron out all of this. As you can see, I ended up changing where he was standing as well, because I wanted to make sure that the words came first. Whereas in the original, he was standing here. So always remember, guys, no one goes right out the bat with creating a page from scratch. It goes from drafting to conceptualization to finalization and then final production. You have to draft out where everything's going to go, and then you have to execute accordingly. My name is Yoa Sakura, and this is the first of many videos that I hope to put out. I want to make sure that I get everybody involved with questions that they may have as to things that they want to try and do with their series. If they want to potentially learn other strategies, I'm not ever any person that you can't come and approach. So please just give us a contact if you can. Our information is there scrolling underneath the screen. And I will be back with more videos. Just give me your comments and give me a follow. Press like on this video, or comment, say what you like about it, tell me what you don't like about it. And with that, see you guys next time. Peace out.